think a lot of people in the early days, told us that we should sell it. I mean, there were a lot of there was one embarrassing moment I remember. I joined a conference call early with some of our lawyers, and I don't think they had known I had joined, and they were talking about, this thing is basically going to zero. You know what I mean? This was in the early days, like it's just a fad, da 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 da. And I'm like, oh hey guys,
You're joking, and they didn't know you were on the call.
They hadn't known I joined because I joined a minute or two early or something like that. So I think there was a lot of skepticism in the early days, and a lot of people who said, hey, sell now while you can. You're competing in a really, really tough industry with a lot of big players, and you don't know if people are gonna, continue to love this product. But I think what they missed was our vision for the future, right? They only saw what was in the public. We were working on all sorts of, and still are working on all sorts of amazing new products that give us conviction in the future and our ability to make products that people really love. But I think from the outside, when you were looking at Snapchat, you're like, people are just sending photos back and forth. I mean, how is this ever gonna be a business? How is this ever gonna grow for the long term?
But you do end up getting an offer, a very, very famous offer when you're 23 years old from Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook.
Yeah, that was a fateful day for sure.
How does that begin? How does that story begin? Is it an email, a phone call, an introduction?
I think it was an initial email, and I think we met at some point, and they were interested in what we were doing, and at that time they were working on a competitor called Poke, and so they were kind of talking with us, hey, we're exploring this space kind of thing. What do you think? And maybe you want to join Facebook. I think they had just acquired Instagram too, probably like a year earlier or something like that. And our view was that Instagram had been wildly undervalued, and that acquisition ultimately had given up like a massive, massive opportunity.
You're 23 years old at that point. You've got Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, offering you a lot of money. I heard that it was $3 billion they offered.
Yeah, we never talked about it publicly, but yeah.
Is that the number?
That's not technically the number, but it's what's been reported publicly, so we can go with that.
I'm trying to understand, as a 23-year-old, if someone offers me $3 billion for an app that I've started, you said you're probably still at your dad's house or in the blue office at that point.
Yeah, I think we were definitely at my dad's house.
You're in your dad's house and someone's offering you $3 billion for an app. What wisdom do you have that enables you to turn that down?
I wish I could say it was wisdom. I think it was just that Bobby and I loved what we were doing. We loved what we were working on. We believed in the future of it. And ultimately, we were able to convince our investors as well that like our opportunity was much bigger over time.
Was there ever a day where you doubted that decision?
No.
Not even a moment?
Not a moment. No.
Were all of the board supportive?
Yeah, all of our investors were supportive.
They would have made a lot of money.
Yeah, but they did something very smart early on in like a prior financing round around that time or before then, where Bobby and I were each able to sell $10 million of stock. So we each had 10 million bucks, and we were like, wow, like we made it. Like you know what I mean? We have enough money forever. And that like allowed us to just swing for the fences. I mean, at that point you're like, let's just go for it. So there wasn't that feeling of like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to buy a house. I'm not going to be able to like, have a family. We were like, we each got 10 million bucks. Like, let's go for it.